Welcome. These are verbs in a sentence. Now, keep in mind, for this video, I'm only going to show you what verbs do when they're acting like themselves in a sentence. Check out a later video for when verbs start acting like other parts of speech. So, verbs in a sentence. What's the point? Well, verbs are the heart of a sentence, and without them, sentences just do not work. And here are my examples in these sentences. We have are, do, and work. So when we're talking about verbs, verbs usually have three jobs in a sentence, like I said, when they're acting like themselves. We're going to have action verbs, and we're going to have linking verbs as the main two. Every sentence will either have an action verb or a linking verb. Now, our third kind of a verb is our helping verb. Now, our helping verbs will either go before the action verb or the linking verb in your sentence to help it out. But your main verb will always be action or linking. Action verbs, that's what we usually think of when we think of a sentence. Those are the verbs that do something. For example, Gertrude ran into the glass door. That's the action that Gertrude is doing. And then when we get to linking verbs, these act more like an equal sign. They link the subject to something that describes the subject, like the door looked invisible. And then when we get to helping verbs, the slideshow got just a little bit ahead of me here, sorry. Here we go. When we get to our helping verbs, like I said, they can go with either an action verb or a linking verb. So it's like the sentences, Gertrude ran into the glass door, and the glass door looked invisible, and we'll add our helping verbs to make that Gertrude is running into the glass door, and the glass door has looked invisible. Is and has, because they come before our main verb, will be our helping verbs. Linking verbs. Let's go back to that one. Linking verbs are kind of like algebra. In algebra, you have x equals y, and like I said, our linking verbs are going to act like that equal sign. So instead of x, maybe we have those trees, and instead of y, maybe we have really green, and then our equal sign can be a linking verb like are, or even seem. Our main kinds of linking verbs, the most popular kinds of linking verbs, are going to be the forms of be, like is, are, am, was, were, been, being, and of course, be itself. But you can also have some other verbs, verbs that show something to do with the five senses, like smells, looks, appears, sounds, seems, tastes, turns, grows, feels, remains, becomes. These are only some examples of some extra linking verbs that you can have in your sentence. You got to be careful, though, when you're looking out for those linking verbs because they can be a little bit tricky. Like our be verbs, sometimes these don't act like linking verbs. Sometimes these will actually turn into our helping verbs. In the sentence, Helga is a terrible brat. Is actually still going to be our linking verb like it would be normally. But if we rearrange things a little bit, we can have Helga is being a terrible brat, and now is our helping verb. It's helping out our main verb, which is being, and that is going to be our linking verb. Both of those still acting like the equal sign in the sentence. You also have to be careful with those other kinds of verbs, the ones that show the five senses. So for example, we can have Jacob tastes like a coconut. There, tastes, it's acting like an equal sign. Jacob equals coconut is almost what we're saying. But if we change it a little bit and we say Jacob tastes a coconut, now we're saying that Jacob is doing the action of tasting a coconut. Those other verbs can actually turn into action verbs. That's why you got to be careful. Our linking verbs are only linking verbs if they're acting like that equal sign in the sentence. X equals Y. So, here are some tips for spotting helping verbs. First off, not all sentences need one. So, like we take the sentence, Drew took the last Pop-Tart. Took is our action verb. It doesn't need a helping verb. And sometimes, they will always come before the main verb, like in the sentence, Drew has taken the last Pop-Tart. Has is our helping verb. Taken is our action. And a sentence can have as many as three if we're getting a little bit crazy. So we can say Drew might have been taking the last Pop-Tart. Taking is still going to be our action verb, which leaves might, have, and been all as helping verbs. So, spotting helping verbs. You can have helping verbs in the form of what we call modals, and these will come at the front of your verb phrase. They can be words like can, could, may, might, must, ought to, shall, should, will, and would. You can have the forms of have, had, and has. You can have the forms of do, done, did, and of course, like I said, you can have the forms of be. Be, is, am, are, was, were, been, being. So, I want you to give this a try. I'm going to throw some sentences up here. Zoe loves tomato sandwiches. Andrea has smelled like cinnamon all day. Garrett is wonderfully entertaining. Nasha always makes funny faces. And Jordan might not have been listening. I want you to pause the video and find what are the verbs in each of these sentences. Go ahead and pause it now. And then when you're ready to pick it back up, hopefully we found all the right verbs. In the first sentence, we have Zoe loves tomato sandwiches. Andrea has smelled. Those are verbs like cinnamon all day. Garrett is wonderfully entertaining. Nasha always makes funny faces. And Jordan might not have been listening. Here's a tricky one. Not is not a verb. It will always come after your first helping verb. And if you don't have a helping verb already in there, sometimes you're going to have to add in do. For example, you'll say, do not comply with these directions. When you throw in not, it's not one of your verbs, but it's going to come right in the middle of your verb phrase, right after that first helping verb. Now I want you to go through and pause the video again, and I want you to look this time for which kinds of verbs we have. Do we have an action verb, a linking verb, or a helping verb for each one? So pause the video and try to guess now. And now when you're ready to continue, Zoe loves tomato sandwiches. That's the action. Zoe is doing the action of loving tomato sandwiches. That one cannot be an equal sign. Loves is a tricky verb, but it's not a linking verb because it can't be an equal sign. Zoe is not tomato sandwiches. She just loves them. Andrea has smelled. Has is going to be our helping verb, and then smells is going to be our linking verb in this case, because Andrea is, in this case, almost equal to cinnamon, because that's the way that she smells all day. In our next sentence, we have one of our to-be verbs, which can be tricky, but remember, this one is the equal sign. This one is the linking verb. Nasha always makes funny faces, so we got a great example of an action verb there. Jordan might, which is going to be our helping verb, which is, remember, one of those modal verbs. Then we have, which is still a helping verb, and been, which is still a helping verb, before we finally get to our main verb in our sentence, listening, which is an action verb. So, some final notes. In questions, the first helping verb is going to move up towards the front. So, for example, if we take the sentences, Josh has left snacks in his locker, and Erin was taking pictures with her phone, and we turn those into some questions, for example, we might now have, when has Josh left snacks in his locker, and was Erin taking pictures with her phone? Those helping verbs jumped up in front of our subjects in these cases. And I've only described what verbs do in a sentence when they act like themselves. Stay tuned for when verbs act like nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. It's about to get a little crazy. But hey, thanks for watching. This has been Verbs in a Sentence with Mr. Taylor.